The 28th of January is the feast day of St. Thomas Aquinas, patron saint of education. Welcome to Festal Footnotes. It's difficult to read anything meaningful in Western theology without running into Thomas Aquinas. The man's philosophy echoed in nearly everything which came after him, for better or for worse. It was Aquinas' philosophy which Martin Luther consciously rejected in the Protestant Reformation. It was Aquinas' philosophy that the Jesuits took up and ran with shortly after their creation. It was Aquinas' philosophy which was affirmed over and over and over again as doctrine at both the First Vatican Council and the Council of Trent. The man's influence is inescapable in the thinking of the Church. This being so, you'd think that we'd know a great deal about Thomas's life, but we don't. There's almost nothing autobiographical in anything Thomas Aquinas wrote. All his writings focus on his quest to learn truths about God. But let's start with what we do know. Thomas was born in 1225 in the region of Aquino in southern Italy. His father was a nobleman, and the family had plans to make him abbot of Monte Cassino, a place that we will surely talk about when we come to St. Benedict. He went to school first at Monte Cassino, and later in Naples. In Naples, Thomas met Dominican monks for the first time, and resolved to become a Dominican. His family was not impressed. If Thomas became a Dominican, then he couldn't become the abbot of Monte Cassino, a Benedictine monastery, and so to try to change his mind, Thomas's mother arranged for him to be kidnapped and held for a year in a castle belonging to the family. Nothing changed. Thomas was determined to become a Dominican, and after a year the family relented and arranged for him to escape through a window in 1244. Thomas traveled north, first to Naples, then Rome, and finally Paris, where he studied at the University of Paris under Albert the Great. Albert was among the greatest intellects of the age, and Aquinas and Albert worked together to reconcile Christian theology with the writings of Aristotle. But if you're interested in what Thomas wrote, the Thomistic Institute has put a magnificent series of short videos online, which I'll link below. Here, I'm interested in who the man was. In all accounts of him, two qualities of Thomas Aquinas stand out: his quietness and his prayerful life. He spoke little, and always with intent. He disliked conflict and confrontation. He saw himself as engaged in an impartial search for truths about God. This search inspired his contemporaries and deeply engaged theologians, both in Paris and across Europe. Thomas was also a man of extensive prayer. Reginald, one of his companions late in life, said,
"He owed his knowledge less to the effort of his mind than to the virtue of his prayer. Whenever he wished to study, argue, teach, write, or dictate, he always had recourse first to hidden prayer, beseeching God to find in the truth the divine secrets."
According to tradition, a fellow Dominican once stumbled across Thomas in private prayer in time to witness a crucifix come to life. Christ asked what Thomas would like in return for writing so well about God. Thomas replied, "Nothing but thyself, O Lord." Aquinas died in 1274 while en route to the Second Council of Lyon, and his body lies in the Church of the Jacobins in Toulouse. Thomas Aquinas' writings can be so influential that we fail to note the piety of the man they came from. As a saint, Thomas is the patron of education. Unsurprisingly, he's the patron saint of all teachers, students, and academics. He's also the patron saint of philosophers and theologians, and finally, he's the patron saint of booksellers. There's a great deal to be learned from St. Thomas Aquinas, and I heartily recommend studying his works. But there's even more to be imitated in his life. Editing Benjamin here. Just a final note that if you're interested in what Thomas Aquinas thought, you should check out the videos that the Thomistic Institute put together. They are really good. I'll leave a link in the description.